activist, journalist, also a model, he's also a rapper. And so we're going to get a lot of that today. And so again, I'd like to welcome DJ Smitty Rock.
Yes, good afternoon.
Okay. So just for our listening audience benefit, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and some of the things that you do in the community?
Yes, first thing, I'm associated pioneer of the art of hip-hop in the Bronx. Extensively a legend in my town. Right now, last 10 years, been working with state education, that's to help people blessed with the talent of the arts. But I've been mediating with a lot of community organizations and basic local foundations to perfect based on, as far as, entertainment, better words of what they, advocating and project on, which means as far as socialship and, servicing in the community. I basically, work with district Congress leaders, assembly, school institutions or centers, Apollo, right now, associated with the National Action Theater as far as New York City borough host, trying to help our people blessed with the talent. Work with Daily News with the Youth Step, and I try to basically advocate on a strong hold on my TV show called The Bronx Zone. And plus I work with find a radio station that's basically one of the first internet radio stations here to give a word of wisdom.
Wonderful, wonderful, sir. Now let's talk about some of the things that you have on your list. You mentioned early on that there's a march coming up soon, and you can share that with our listening audience.
Yes, based on it's the 11th, which is tomorrow, is a march as well as a walk in the Harlem community for the organization called Harlem Mothers Saves, which means that Miss Jackie Rowe Adams is the producer and the chairman and the founder of this organization, which is powerful. It's been basically launched maybe since '08. Mm-hmm. What she's doing is working with, One Police Plaza, basically with local political officers, district leaders as well as political, as far as senators and stuff, and council, and also local police department, and trying to ban the gun violence that's torn and ripping and raving in our social urban city communities and afar.
Wow. Well, from my knowledge of Miss Jackie Rowe Adams' organization, it is an organization that deals with mothers who've lost their children to street violence, and
right.
Which is a very powerful thing. And just to think that you basically are burying your child, that is something that's very horrific for any mother. And I have to applaud her for her efforts in trying to bring some form of comfort to those parents who have lost children to gun violence. Now, when you say gun violence, you and I both come from the streets. Do you see the swing of violence in the street, or you do see it's something that this may be media blown out of proportion?
Well, it's associated with media and just toward behavior in the community that people basically is obstructed. It's only communicating with other people that cause havoc and torment that react and reacts this kind of situation and this violence. And like I said, Miss Jackie Rose, she doing a march tomorrow on the 11th, starting at 2 o'clock. Mm-hmm. And they forming at 128th Street between 8th Avenue mm-hmm. and St. Nick, which means then they're gonna march, we're gonna chant, we're gonna walk mm-hmm. to Rucker Park, and then they're gonna have food, entertainment, and other excursions, which means that as far as violence in the community, it is a tormented effect that maybe most of the people that use these kind of weapons and stuff like that, they come into, argument or dismiss, mm-hmm. Basically don't have a shred of controlness, or like back in the days, they used to go in the park and fight.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well that seems to be gone of late, and unfortunately, you have a population that's very angry. A lot of people have, especially a lot of our young men in particular, who feel that, the society has abandoned them. Society has not given them opportunity to really grow and exercise their potential. And so I think that if we can find other ways for which you can exercise, like what you're doing, you are showcasing young people's talent. These young people yearn for that type of opportunity. So before you leave the show, I want you to please share your information so people can reach out to you and see how they can get involved with your show, because again, we have a lot of talented young people. One of the things that I found, and I always emphasize, how this young generation is one of the best generations we've ever produced, but they just have two things, one of which they are fearless, and a lot of them are misguided. And so one of the things that when you mentioned how there was a time when guys would go in the park and fight, there was also a lot of gyms around showing kids how to fight. There was also a lot of opportunities showing kids how to play basketball, fundamental skills that are lacking now.
Right.
And their low tolerance for frustration begins to pull them into this type of violence.
And see, even the reminisce at the same time, but back then, it was just a mild, torn behavior, mediating, because it was a respectable express. I think brothers in the urban city communities, maybe around the country, their heads was above water. It was less coaches here, so it was opportunities to be met.
Yeah, because also there was a different climate. And you and I were speaking about this earlier, how we looked at the 60s, we looked at the early 70s. You had a lot of groups out there politicizing your rights, as you always mentioned, how the need to know your rights. And you mentioned something earlier about how the school system at one time was teaching us basic law and how to conduct ourselves in a legal situation. Could you share some of that with our listening audience?
Yes, which means at one time we was getting instructed, far as in the late 50s and 60s, when things like far as in modern faction, there was a dispersed far as ragtime into rock and roll area, and basically the national and state disposition is we're figuring bringing on a better order, because they even far as from Lincoln, it was more based on about far as slavery be disassembled from the Constitution as an act. Then they always try to revocate, right from wrong, but one, culture was really getting his high studies.
Okay.
And then they was leaving that just based on to meddle, to see the disrespect that far as people couldn't uphold the same level of their character. They figured they was set forth. So far as basic law, told to continue on being instructed, which means now most other countries that come here since, really 81, before that it was like 13, they know about basic laws because they use a lot of torment and right and wrong in their country, and they had to abide by that.
Okay.
And enforce. So, far as basic law, supposed to have been instructed continuously to other generations, like, the guys, young guys now, the last 12, 15 years wearing their pants all the way down. Yeah. That's not basic law. So they stopped it. We had people productive that carried on the torch from the 70s to now, but the other young generation to come, had missed that in school curriculum.
Well, let me just say that, just to jump in on that, because one of the things that I, experienced from being in the streets was how a lot of young men were instructed by older men about the law, because they would see young men going down a negative path and tell them, listen here, man, you can get 3 to 5 for that. So a lot of these guys were street corner paralegals, and they were instructing people or trying to discourage them from being a part of the criminal justice. And I think we lack that now, modern day, where older guys like yourself and I, who there are not enough of us around there to say, hold up, young brother, let me tell you what you're about to get yourself into before you go through this exchange with this police officer. Because what we're doing now is parents are instructing our children to basically normalize injustice when we encounter the police. We just don't say nothing, don't get them upset, basically, because they can kill you. It's no longer like these are your rights and you can begin to articulate them to any type of person, but you have to first feel for your life and then secondly exercise your right.
Right.
And I think that's the dynamic that has changed. And also, as you know, when they had a lot of the cutbacks, as a person who comes from the rap community, a lot of the cutbacks, one of the first things they cut back was things like music, art, and brothers like yourself, and they've said, well, wait a minute, music will still exist, even though it's not in a structured form. It's going to be in a new, almost like a spoken word now.
Right.
And we're going to show the folks that you cannot suppress talent.
That's right, see.
And I think that, you know, that's why I compliment your generation for doing that. And maybe later on we're going to listen to some of your positive themes about certain issues that are going on in the community in the form of rap. Because, you know, there was a time when rap was, I tell folk, the first rappers I heard was in the church. When you listen to them preachers get on the podium, a lot of them guys, in addition to preaching the word of God, they would also had a cadence. And that cadence would give you a beat. And that's why a lot of them, if you listen to preachers like C.L. Franklin, Aretha Franklin's father, he was the first guy who started that, you know, they told me, do that, you know, all of that. That had a beat to it. And that's before even the organ and stuff was in there. These guys can stand up there for 2 and 3 hours and share a word of wisdom and the word of God with the congregation, but touch their soul with the rhythm.
Right.
And that's what rap did. Rap speaks to the hurt that is going on in the community, and now a lot of the rappers who are left the community are still trying to speak to the hurt that they know nothing about anymore, because it has changed. It changed. Our community changes like close to every 5-6 years.
And you're right. And even from a spiritual standpoint, rap really a modified based on soulship, and that's where the originality and nationality and biblication comes in. But as far as now today, just like you said, things change. You know, to me, you know, I've been in since day one. Father, brother, cool, hurt, but it's more about music.
Yes, sir.
You have to get into music, which means it'll perfect your art continuously instead of changing on you. And you know, like, you know, this is really on 40 years that I've been into music entertainment in front of audience.
Okay.
And even back then, day one, you know, after following a certain one individual, you know, today I'm still, you know, entertaining and, you know.
Well, just tell us some of our listening audience, some of the people you used to work with in the music industry, so we can see that background and how it accumulated into who you are today. Well,
I used to work with club owners, but I used to be around the pioneers in the Bronx. I used to, you know, one club was called a T Connection on Gun Hill White Plains Road in the Bronx. And the owner used to allow the pioneers at the beginning, Father Davey or Rap Records, Sugar Hill Records, he used to let them come in before that and book the place. The place was, you know, enormous. It hold maybe 980 people. Sometimes you see 1,200 at night, packed. And he used to let these, you know, Grandmaster Flash, Bam Bottom, Funky 4 Plus One More, Cold Crush Brothers, you know, rent the place.
So let me ask you, with 900 people in these arenas, did y'all have violence back then, or was it?
Well, there was some.
Audio?
There was some. I was with him since 78 to 82. I only seen, it was a gun violence, you know, occurred in there. I ain't witnessed that because I was working with GQ. From 76 to 80. So, which means that I never seen really a fatality because I was DJing 2 other clubs along with that club.
So, one of the things I'd like to just jump in on that is you can see how they always try to associate rap with violence, and you're illustrating that you can have decent rap gatherings without violence because you witnessed it yourself. You may have encountered 1 or 2 scenes of your whole career, but back then there were people really just going to party.
That's what it was.
And this is now, sometimes people are going to look for trouble.
Well, that's the one, less music and less experience with entertainment.
Well, no, I'm saying I heard people like Ice-T, various other rappers who come from back in the day say, man, rap is, you know, goes hand in glove with violence.
Well, that's just, well, like I said, you know, maybe I mentioned before, pre-communicate. I mean, conversating. You know, this city here alone that innovated the art. The west side of the city, Harlem and the Bronx, is the Diamond Jew, sacred ground. But now, as far as back then, it just like you said, with rappers before that in the biblical sense, in the spiritual sense. Rap always been since the early 20s. It's just the music, the instruments. It was less composed, and basically, so the vocalist, regardless who it was, it could have been Frank Sinatra. They had to deal with instruments, orchestra, symphony, harmony, and basic rhythm. So it's really an instrument that carried component to after the rock and roll era into the disco era, but then rap is like more spoken words. So even modern technology came into cue present times. So it's just like you say, nothing don't remain, it changes.
That's right.
So far as rap, far as violence, violence is basically, look, if you have a story, just like, rap is just any author, a book, even if you write a movie, it's a story.
Yes, sir.
You can't see if you're a movie writer or a book writer, you have all kind of, because freestyle is simple. And freestyle, these young kids, freestyle is like, we at the station, I just had water. We sat down and talked before we came on air. Basically, you tune up. I try to set up something over there.
Yes, sir.
And then watching the band over here, that's freestyle.
Yes, okay.
You can say, I maybe just came early time before I got late. You know what I'm saying? All that freestyle. Or you're in the kitchen, the refrigerator here, the sink there. I want to put something on the stove over there. That's freestyle. Anybody can freestyle.
Painting the picture.
That's right.
And one of the things I would like to share with our listening audience, I want to play a little music and show you how, you have different forms of rap, and one of the greatest rappers or one of the greatest preacher singers that I used to listen to was a brother by the name of Marvin Gaye. So I'm just going to play a little Marvin Gaye for our listening audience and see whether or not y'all can see how this man is rapping, but he's also singing. Okay, so stay right with us and we're going to come right back.
But never cool.